Hee tookie tookie caw caw. Greetings, fellow sentients, and welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where the hosts are freshly surfacing from the rabbit hole of the week, and we're eager to info dump on anyone within earshot. So, sorry in advance, and/or you're welcome in advance. This is episode 77, recorded February 7th, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis. Down below me, we have Seeker, Seeker4761, also known as Colton Roper. Down across the corner from him, we have Tim Rhind, also known as Fake Farang, and then directly across from me, we have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. How's everyone doing today?
I am doing
good.
I've had my chocolate milk, so
just need more sleep. Gotta stop binging on Netflix.
Never. Have you guys seen these? Like, the Koreans have just perfected the art of zombie movies. Like, I gotta say, no, you disagree? Okay, I think so.
I have a hard time listening to dubbed things because the mouth doesn't line up. And unlike anime where they can kind of fake it.
Yeah,
I can't do subtitles.
I love subtitles.
If I see subtitles down here, that's what I'm looking at. That's
Subs,
what I'm watching.
Not dubs, baby.
I have
no problem.
And I miss everything up above.
It's practice.
I agree with you in English movies. I have a hard time with subtitles in English movies.
Yeah.
Because then I only look at the subtitles and I'm like, error checking and correcting. I am apparently ECC memory at that point. But
you guys take watching way too seriously. Just relax, brah. Just relax.
I have no problem with subtitles in the Korean dramas. I've been watching them for like years though. Yeah. A lot of super good Korean crime dramas, and like ones like that, mystery ones or thriller ones, just really good ones.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we should get on with.
Guess we should do the fucking podcast. I guess.
We still haven't. After all of these episodes, we still can't get the natural flow. Can't do it.
Yeah. It's all right. One of these days.
Whose turn?
One of these days. But yeah, Cody,
Never.
I hate you a little bit because what the hell is that? Cody is going to talk to us about learning how to.
Incorrect.
I'm assuming that means reading
if you could
Thai.
read? Ha! You're right. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Ha!
We didn't hear
Got it.
Brandon. Please say again.
Yeah, I thought it was reading Thai because I remember you talking about that. And
to be more specific, it is
sense.
read Pasa Thai or read language Thai. To be exact with how that is written. And I admit I cheated a little bit because some of those letters I don't know how to read yet, so I did Google Translate that. But most of that, I can read most of those letters. Anyway.
You should totally put that like somewhere on screen so that our viewers can see the weirdness that I was just asked.
You should
to
do an
read out.
entire closed captioning in Thai.
Oh
my
God!
I am not there yet.
You'd learn real quick.
Yeah. We're getting there, but that would be a disservice to everybody. But that's
You
okay.
insulted people in 2 nations.
Because Colton is gonna talk about cars, baby.
Cars, baby. And seems like it's kind of related. Tim looks like he's going to be talking about fuel confusion, or the confusion of fuel. I'm confused.
Just thinking we should have this as a motor.
Oh,
yeah.
You guys are learning this now.
I
Oh,
understand
this is gonna be good.
3 of those behind you. The other 3 I am deeply confused and concerned about.
Oh, don't worry, it gets more confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't quite understand it yet.
I'm glad that you're doing this one because I've had questions about this for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Brandon, deck of not lies. Deck of not lies.
Not lies, he says.
Deck of...
Apparently.
No, I'm lost. I can't get it.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, Cody, tell us about learning to read Thai.
So I am going to now share a photo in the production of Discord so you guys can see. And for our listeners, sorry, the listener part isn't going to get a lot out of this. So
I can't read that. It's all backwards.
Yeah, that's
I mean-
all the wrong
I
way.
also
It's all
shared that
switched
in
around.
Discord. I know. So over the last few days, starting in the 1st of February, I started learning how to read Thai. To be honest, I actually started this a while back with a course called how I love Brandon's face expressions here.
Looks like a bunch of birds.
And snakes and worms.
Actually, this character is kokkai, which is
Okay.
basically chicken. So
See?
you're not
Thai's
wrong.
not that hard. Thai's not
You're
that hard.
not wrong on that.
You're just saying chicken
mean-
a bunch.
I do like that the one that is below the little fishy looks like a fishing hook almost. That
that one?
I might understand. Ish. The rest of them
that's
no.
actually turtle, not totao. So you can see, because they've got those up there where you can see what they actually are. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
basically the bottom
a fish.
sound, like it's the sound that they make. So this is kind of equivalent to a B, but all of these are class B1 consonants. So Thai has something like it's way more characters than English. It's a ridiculous amount of consonants and vowels. But that's not important. What is important is in Thai, each one of these makes a unique sound. So by reading a word, like for instance, if I know the word for hotel and I read the word for hotel, which is rongrem, I realize that for a long time I've been mispronouncing it because each of these letters makes a specific sound. Let me explain. Unlike English, if you see, if you're learning English and you see the letters R-A-F-E, what does that make? That's not a real word in
Royal
English.
Air Force.
Rafe.
Rafe.
Rough.
Okay, what about R-A-F-T?
Raft.
Notice how the A there suddenly changed what sound it makes based off of whether there was an E or not an E. Whereas in Thai, there is a vowel that is for each of the types of A's. For instance, there's that, which is an aw sound. There's the one above it, which you can't really see because it's kind of getting cut off, but it looks like a candy cane. Actually, it's down here, right here. That makes an ah. So aw versus ah. And then you have that which is like an a sound. And then you have this, which is an eh. So, and all of these are longer sounds. So I mispronounced some of them because I shortened the sound. So it's actually a or eh. So, but by learning how to read Thai, you can correct your pronunciation rather than relying on the English version of it. So for instance, I'm doing, English translations for some of these here, as we're learning new words, because not all of these were covered in the 3 previous courses that I've done. For instance, this is like, if a taxi goes, oh, I'm sorry, the meter isn't working, this is the story that my teacher actually told me. So Thai people also get screwed over by taxis here too. Like the taxi driver goes, "Oh, it's raining. You know, there's a traffic jam. The meter's not working. I'm sorry. It'll be to go to the hospital. It'll be 450 baht." Turns out she was able to get to the hospital in 10 minutes, but it still cost her 450 baht. And so she would say, "Gong mita," basically meaning that the meter. It's basically a word that it's a verb for being swindled by the meter, or like if the other example of that is you have a 500 baht note, the person trying to sell you a shirt says it's 200 baht, you give them that and they're like, oh I only, the person's thinking, the panaknyan or vendor is like, wait, I only have 100 baht in change. Oh, I'm sorry, the shirt's actually 400 baht. So then you would say, gong panaknyan, I guess, in that instance. Anyway, I'm getting off, but I know, or gong, I know that that's how that's pronounced because of that letter, and that letter. That's what's so cool about learning to read, is I can see, especially like on the BTS or something, I can look at the names of stops, or on Google Maps, like one that's commonly mispronounced by foreigners is island. Which actually, yeah, because on maps it's written KOH, like Ko Samui. But actually, it uses that letter, the Gakkai, which is, it's similar. It's a really close, it's not quite a hard G like we would pronounce in English. It's like skill, ka, like that. And so we pronounce so many words in Thai wrong based off of the English transliteration of those words. And what this is doing now, besides learning random new words because we have to practice reading, is correcting my pronunciation of that, where, hotel, for when I was starting, I thought it was wrong gram, where it's actually wrong gram. So it's this has been fascinating, or the difference between, that, the a and a, like it. Sorry, I'm nerding out over this, but it's so cool. It's interesting, and it's the hardest part for me is when you get down, and I don't actually have any examples of it that I took on this. I think they might show up on the picture that I gave you guys, but they're not showing up on here. At the very bottom of the page, you have these compound words that Thai doesn't have spaces in its, so if you have exactly. If you have just a block of text, that's not one word. That's multiple words going on. And I have a theory. It might be wrong, but I have a new theory about Thai. And my new theory is that most words are one or two syllables, and the longer words are actually compound words. I am not certain on the theory. Now let me talk about where you run into trouble with Thai. And where you run into trouble reading Thai is words like that, where you would say ga, like that's a ra rua, so you would think that would make an R sound at the end of that word, right? No. Anything that ends with a ra rua or a la ling, so an R or an L, makes an N sound. The reason for this is Thai is actually based off of Sanskrit and Pali. So when they made the Thai language, they introduced letters that are from those languages specifically for transliteration back to those languages. But they may not be native words to Thai itself. So you have specifically these ending sounds where it's okay when you remember how to read it and you're like, okay, I need to read this word. Okay, I can easily remember that if it ends in rarua or a ling, that I can change, that to an end sound. The problem is when you have to do the reverse of that. When you then have to write the word, you have to remember that word specifically, even though it's there's like the word for devil in Thai, which man. So that actually ends in an rarua. So you have to remember that as you're writing it, which so it's not completely like there's a reason for it, but it's not always easy. As far as the pronunciation of it, it's compared to English, I would still say it's easier.
So it's basically like a TION versus SION when you're spelling something because it sounds the same. Like that same kind of like mental trick.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got that. But there's so far, now granted, I've only been doing this since the 1st of February, but so far I am finding out that there's a lot less like weird rules about it. That there's so far the only one I've really encountered is the you have to pronounce words as an N that end in an R or an L. So that it's not too bad. Everything else is pretty logical when it comes to reading. And that actually there's another thing. So the equivalent of the Y in Thai, which is, let me find one here, and I don't see one off the top of my head. Oh, there we go.
Are you having any troubles memorizing all these characters?
Strangely enough, no. And I actually have a harder time remembering vocabulary than I do letters. And it might be because I'm writing, so it's making me remember by writing. So I'm not only hearing, I'm not only speaking, but I'm also writing that letter over and over, as you can see here with my terrible, terrible handwriting. Although I think it's better in Thai than it is in English, to be honest. If you look at English versus, Thai. Yeah, exactly. I have some of the worst handwriting. In English, that was always, or in elementary school, handwriting was always my worst graded subject. Yeah. But, who cares? We have keyboards now. Yeah. So the Y, where I was getting into, the Y in Thai, the yayak here, that does, it's similar, it makes an I sound at the end of a word in Thai. So for instance, the word Thai actually has a yayak in it. So it makes an I sound. Also, if it ends with the equivalent of a W in English, let me see if I can find one here. Okay, here we go. Right there. That is actually a like an O or Oi sound, depending on the letter before it. So there's a few other switch ups. Anyway, that's my Right now, I've learned class C1 consonants, which are 7 consonants, class C2 consonants, and then this is class B1 consonants. And then I've learned, let's see, for vowels, I've learned the aw, the ah, the e, the oo, and the o, I'm trying to remember if I missed. Oh yeah, the A and the A. So those are the letters. So all of the vowels start with Sarah, Sarah, and then the sound of the vowel. Whereas the consonants will have like the sound it makes and then the name of the consonant. So it's also J. So this is the equivalent of J in Thai. It's not quite exactly the same as ja in English. It's more of a like tip of the tongue, da. There's one of the hardest ones for English speaking people is this one, this BP sound, blah blah, where it's and this is where you get it. Class C1 and Class B1 consonants. If you put your hand in front of your mouth and you say those letters, you should not feel air coming out. So, okay, for instance, say boy, like in English, and
boy.
You'll feel a puff of air, boy.
Yeah.
If you say bo bai mai, you should not feel that puff of air.
But
If you feel that air, you are saying it wrong. It's the same thing with this BP sound right here. If you have that air, you are saying it incorrectly. And you have to adjust where like your tongue meets your mouth and your teeth, and that's how you correct it. Yeah, exactly. You find yourself doing exactly what Dracanis is doing a lot.
Like the word for duck.
Oh, was it
Yes.
bet?
Bed.
Yeah, bet.
Bed.
So, bet. So it's like you have to
Somewhere
kind
between
of
a B and a P sound for us.
yeah, you have to like kind of smile as you bet, like. It's more front of your mouth is where that letter is. It's not the back of your mouth where you're creating that, or like the middle of your mouth, what we're used to. It's like the very front.
no,
If
too much
you
German.
can do it. Yeah. Yeah, that might be the antithesis of Thai. Anyway, well, I think this is a good lead off. Not really into cars.
Oh, shit. I did not get any sleep last night. So, and today. I guess not last night, today. All right, so let me get over here. All right, so we all love cars here, right? I mean, come on, at least the basics of it.
Yes.
We all love to feel the engine's power between our loins. We love to just drive hard and fast with our hand on the thick and long gear shit. Wait a minute, guys. Sorry, that's not the right script. That's a very, very different project I'm working on. Hang on a sec.
Is that autoerotica?
Get it? There we go. All right. So sorry about that.
Crash. movie Crash.
Shit. So we all love driving, right? Whether it's a motorcycle through Thailand or a car through the mountain pass in Colorado, driving is fucking great. We all love it. So I want to tell you guys very quickly about a driving experience I had very recently. I rented a vehicle and was given a 2021 Toyota Corolla SE, and I fucking loved that car. If Toyota wants to give a review unit to the Tech Pirate, I call reviewing that fucking thing. So, Toyota, if you want to sponsor it, we are offering. It is so responsive and fuel efficient. According to the onboard sensors, it got like 60 miles to gallon on the interstate. It was fucking ridiculous. But that isn't what sold me on this particular vehicle. There are actually two features on that car that honestly I didn't really know any normal production car had. One was lane detection, in which the vehicle scans for the lines in a lane in order to keep the vehicle centered in the lane.
The other does that.
Yeah. And the other tech is that is what Toyota calls dynamic radar cruise control. This is where the vehicle uses sensors to detect vehicles ahead of them while in cruise control and helps maintain a safe distance that is actually set by the driver.
Fucking amazing.
Right? And this is the first like driver assist text that I've ever actually used, and now I don't know if I could ever go back. It made driving the hour and 45-minute drive on the interstate from Tucson to Phoenix, Arizona, like fucking a breeze. I loved it. I want to do that again, and so amazing. So as I said,
can I sorry to interrupt you, but another thing that car will have, because my CHR has both of those things, is if you're not paying attention, you're going to have a harder time rear-ending a car with it, because it will apply the brakes.
Damn.
Yeah.
For a couple initial seconds, and so that it stops you from rear-ending somebody. Yeah.
But yeah, that's
pretty cool.
Yeah, like the fact that Tesla gets all of the love of the autonomous driver assist shit, like all the manufacturers are doing something similar. It's actually freaking wild that even on a basic production car, you have these amazing driver assist things. So basically, that was the first time I ever used any technology like that, because my cars are always older, so it's pretty awesome. So I wanted to find out more about specifically driver assists and autonomous driving in general, because that's kind of where everything's going. And as I said, turns out all the big car manufacturers are making autonomous driving a very important part of their future vehicles. And any vehicle that is using self-driving or autonomous technology actually gets classified on a 6-point scale developed by the Society of International Engineers, or the SAE for short, from 0 to 6. Or 0 to 5, excuse me. So you start with level 0, and it basically means that there is no autonomous technology in a vehicle. So like most vehicles in history, like the driver is 100% in control of everything in the vehicle. There's no vehicle assisted.
Brandon sold 67 Nova. Yeah,
even
76.
And even like traditional cruise control isn't really autonomous in any way, because you set it. It's not getting information from the environment to help the driver in any way. It's just there. It's like zero. It's
there
like
needs
level,
to be a loop. Okay.
Yeah, the vehicle itself needs to actively assist in helping the driver maintain control of the vehicle in any way. Traditional cruise control is not do that. If you're driving down the interstate with 70 miles an hour set, it's not going to stop. It's going to go 70 fucking miles an hour, so you better be in fucking control the whole time. So yeah, that's basically level 0, and yeah. So level 1 is actually where the autonomous kind of starts. It's basically where a driver is still hands-on and actually actively shares control with the vehicle. So like the tech in that Toyota Corolla is technically level 1 due to the fact that it is only engaged when my hands were actually physically on the wheel. So it's not true autonomous, but it's assisting the driver. It's getting information from the environment and will actively change it. Like when I had the lane assist engaged, I felt the vehicle making those little adjustments that you subconsciously do. Kind of weird at first, but it only worked really if my hands were on the vehicle or on the wheel. So I tested this because I was so enamored with the technology, and after like 15 seconds of not having my hands on the wheel, it would yell and scream at me. So I'm like, okay, all right, Toyota, fuck you, I get it. I'm helping. So level 2 in this scale is a little more hands off. So think of like a vehicle that will automatically parallel park itself. So yeah, again, like the driver's still there, but with very, very, very specific conditions, the driver can take their hands off the wheel and the car will automatically drive itself. If very basic driving things, parking, stuff like that. But still, the driver still needs to be there and needs to be able to take control super fucking fast, because it's not really that smart, really. It's smart, but it's not really smart. Mm-hmm. So when you take this 6-point scale, there's kind of like a halfway point. After level 2, it's where it starts to get more autonomous. Level 3 specifically is more eyes off and more conditional autonomous driving. So the vehicle can drive itself part of the time, but it will still ask a driver to maintain control in specific situations. So like I think I saw, it was the Mercedes or something like that, has a traffic jam sensor. So it'll pretty much drive itself down the interstate until all of a sudden it's like, oh look, there's a bunch of fucking cars coming. You need to take control right now, kind of thing. So the backup is still the human driver. If the contingency plan is still the human driver.
And this
the
is level
vehicle,
3 or 2?
This is level 3. This is kind of like that middle ground. And this is kind of actually where the industry is right now, at least from a production standpoint. Honda, it was only March of 2021 where Honda became the first manufacturer with a legally accepted level 3 vehicle. And the second one was Mercedes-Benz, which only happened in December of 2021. So this is kind of like the where the industry is. They're just starting to get to the point where vehicles are more driving themselves from a legal standpoint. Like they have plenty of vehicles that are more autonomous out there, but they're not legal. You have to get special permission from the state to actually drive it in any
Gotcha.
public setting. So yeah, level 4 is where the term self-driving really becomes true. Another way to think of it, it's more mind off of driving. So technically, you could sleep really in this vehicle if you kind of wanted to. You shouldn't, but you can, according to this particular specification. A level 4 vehicle basically drives itself, and while it can request a driver to take over, it can still safely maneuver the vehicle if the driver does not respond correctly. So like that Google self-driving car, that is technically a level 4 vehicle where the driver is still there, but the vehicle itself does most of the navigation, and only in very, very specific conditions where the car will be like, nope, you need to take control.
So we're
like
not quite at the point at this point where you can, sorry to interject, but where you can drive to the bar, drink, sit in the back of the car, and then have your car take you home.
Legally,
level 4
you
is
still get,
not that point. Okay.
Not 100%. You could probably make it work, but you
that
still
would
shouldn't.
Not be
yeah, you
I'm
could
seeing
like
Tim
99
frowny in his mind at that idea.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, legally you can't do it. If you had to, I guess you could, but the car isn't.
You really shouldn't. That's
you really should not fucking do that. Do not fucking do that.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that's partly why there's no legally accepted level 4 vehicles in the entire world. Again, like the Google car that drove thousands and thousands of miles in this level 4 configuration had to get very special permission, and the situations where this kind of vehicle would ask the driver to take over would be like in a blizzard where it can't see any lines on the road, or a very extreme traffic jam situation, but like extreme where people are being really stupid, like
or there's no lines painted on the road,
or no lines painted, or
I'm trying to
or like
think
a dirt
about a lot of these,
or like a dirt road that
Thailand.
isn't on or like a dirt road that isn't on the map in any GPS sense. Like it drives itself most of the time, but it and again
you can still get it into the weeds.
Yeah, but the difference between a level 4 and a level 3 is that the vehicle, if the driver doesn't actually engage with the vehicle in any way, the vehicle itself is still a contingency plan, if that makes sense.
Okay.
The vehicle
take safe actions.
Yeah, it can still safely disengage from the road or the situation. Yeah, that's kind of the definition. The driver still is like the absolute backup, but they don't actively have to be, if that makes any sense, versus a level 3. And then you get to level 5, which is pure autonomous driving. The vehicle doesn't even have to have a steering wheel or pedals or anything. It's basically a shuttle pod that just drives and does all itself. There is no human backup in any way.
When we think future cars, like
in
the
like
future,
the car.
That's what
so.
we think.
Have you guys seen that movie iRobot?
Yes.
That is technically a level 4 level vehicle. It's not level 5. So all those, because you can still manually take over the vehicle, With the level 5 vehicle, you really can't. Is kind of it's steering wheel optional,
that is where now you can take your car home from the bar.
Yeah, that is where you do not have to.
You are not in control of.
You
your
could put a
vehicle.
child legally. You could put a
control.
child into that vehicle and just send it down the road, and it's fine. It is fine. You shouldn't, but you could.
Take yourself to school. I can't.
Yeah, I'm too drunk. Sorry, Timmy. Go get to school, you little shit. Point is, those don't really exist at all. There've been like 1 or 2 tests in a public setting that they kind of did it just like down the street, but they don't do any long-term. They haven't done any long-term tests because obviously the technology isn't there to be like, oh, well, you don't even need a vehicle. But they've done tests in controlled environments where for hours on end a vehicle can drive itself through cones, basic shit like that. But it's a far cry from where it needs to be in the event of real-world conditions.
I feel like this will happen in Singapore, Japan, and Korea first.
I mean, technically, for the Tokyo Olympics, Japan actually offered level 4 transportation for their athletes because of it was semi-controlled situation, so they were able to take the athletes from the bubble from COVID to the events, and there really wasn't a driver involved. There kind of was, but there wasn't.
Japan's roads are amazing. I mean, so
and that's
clean,
kinda,
so flat, no potholes, painted lines that are stand out. It's I can see it being easy.
That's kind of where the industry.
In the US. Texas.
Yeah, but
Texas has good roads.
But you have a place like Colorado, which also maintains the roads, but they also have rock falls and shit like that can destroy a road. So it's that's kind of why
passes and blizzards and
a lot of people don't really think level 5 is ever going to be really possible.
And computers will ever only need 138 kilobytes of memory.
Well, yeah, and that's really far in the future. Like the fact that level 3 cars exist is actually pretty damn incredible. But in terms of, would you guys get into a level 5 vehicle today?
Today, no.
No.
Today?
Level 4?
I mean,
maybe because I can.
Yeah, because I can still control it.
Yeah. Would I fully trust it? No. Because there's too many. I guess it depends. There's a lot of nuance to this question, or to the answer of this question.
Now think about
Where
it.
am
Here's
I?
something. Yeah.
What state
now
am
here's
I in?
Here's the interesting part of all of this, and I never thought about this way, is arguably a computer could actually be safer than a human driver, and because
Could
a human
could be, yeah.
But think about it like this: a human driver, we have a tendency to push it farther than we should. There are we've all been in situations where we were like, we probably should not have been driving.
I think drivers should take more physics lessons.
Right, but that's the point.
It.
A human being can be like, oh, I could fucking do that. Hold my beer.
Well,
but and not for me.
And the other big thing is reaction time.
Yep.
Right, and that's kind of why
well,
like the driver assisted things actually make a lot of sense.
Oh yeah.
Because
there's an interesting. There's an interesting commercial at the beginning of movies in the movie theaters here that's talking about how driving 80 kilometers per hour is the equivalent of falling off of. It's all in Thai, so it's what I got out of this. I think it's falling off of an 8-story building head first on a motorcycle. So basically the force involved in that. And then, of course, the distance that it takes your brain to, and I think you were talking about this before, Tim, your brain to see something, then react to it. Whereas if you
to
have
see
the
it,
appropriate
to assess
sensors,
that you have to do something, and then to actually apply the brake, the standard they use is 1.5
yeah,
seconds.
whereas a computer can be like, they LiDAR, radar, thermal cameras, like all this stuff that even just basic production cars have. They can ascertain, they can see a problem long before a human can even acknowledge it exists.
Providing you're not driving through a blizzard in Calgary,
right? And that's
where
with
all of your
current
sensors
technology.
are iced over.
Yeah, which is why the lane sense and the super cruise control can work, because the constant feedback of data and the vehicle will be like, oh, well, we need to be this far away at all times. Okay, that's fine. It's easy. Fucking easy. And on the interstate, which legally have to be a certain at least in the United States, they have to be a certain standard of road condition. They have to be a certain standard of what do you call it? Signage and actual painted lines condition. So it kind of makes sense, at least in the near future. I would argue a level 4 vehicle would probably happen more conditionally in terms of, like, if you get on the interstate, I mean, if you're driving through Texas and it's literally 10 hours of just a straight line, I would argue even current technology can do that well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
obviously
why I stipulated that, the countries that are going to do this are the countries and the states with the history of basically the cleanest, most
well-maintained roadways.
infrastructure. So your sensor input will be accurate versus getting misreadings off of, is this line painted? Is it not painted? Is it under construction? Is there a pothole that's open that has, 2 cones but are spaced wide enough for a car or not? Or, there's...
And that's kind of the big thing that manufacturers are trying to figure out. Now I'll end my little thing here. But that's the key, is figuring out when, right now with level 3, is figuring out when the human needs to take over. That's kind of where the big next jump will be. If they can get that 100% accurate, that might be good enough, honestly. Because a lot of people, again, we all like driving. We all love driving. There's something to be in control of a vehicle. There's something to that. And in terms of like a level 5, I don't know. That's basically a shuttle, and
it's not
the same.
Anymore.
We'll see.
How many people like riding on an airplane versus, would rather fly one given the opportunity?
Right. Yeah. And my thing is, when you get to a level 5, it's almost, why do you own the car?
Yeah.
That's
why
when
have
it becomes
all
a
those
lot
robo-taxis
more
out there, which is the Waymo robo-taxi. Actually, they test it out in Phoenix. Which is our kind of a level 4, level 3, level 4 kind of thing. That maybe that's where everything's going. You won't need a freaking car anymore. At least if you live in a city. Why would you? What you just said? Why would you own an automatic shuttle when you could just pay a couple bucks? Or who knows how much it would be? Maybe it'd be free by that point. We don't know yet. But
that's the same thing in Canada. We have these car co-ops, and that's the same thing, because some people don't. They like to ride their bicycles, but once in a while they need a car, so they belong to what's called a car co-op.
Yeah.
And you pay a monthly fee, and then you can go pick up the car. You can pick up the car whenever you want to go driving, because that's just like you're saying. Why a car will sits there most of the time, not even being used.
Exactly.
There's one other thing I want to add to this. Car companies that start developing this need to concentrate more on security than they currently do, with connected devices in the car, with Bluetooth, because this is going the Internet of Things route, where you're going to have your thermostat mining Bitcoin, at the least,
or a hacker controlling your car.
Exactly. Like at the least bad situation
would
be your car mining crypto.
Yeah, and here's kind of the interesting
is assassins basically going, oh, do you want to not die today? Well,
Control Alt Kill.
Yeah,
2 Ethernets, please.
Yeah, please transfer 2 ETH to my wallet.
Yeah,
otherwise your car's gonna drive off a cliff.
Right, and kind of one last, I know this will actually be the last thing. Something I found was interesting. You know how Tesla calls their system autopilot? It is only a level 2 system.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because they developed it off of like autopilot from airplanes, which isn't really
the same thing. That's closer to old school cruise control. It's and that's
it was a bad name for
it isn't, but it kind of is
for what the public thinks it is.
Right, but that's
what it
very
actually does on an engineering perspective, and what it really means versus what the public thinks it means.
Well, that's very important, because if you hear the word autopilot, what does that mean? That means I don't need to drive. It will drive itself.
Auto means autonomous.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to, I mean, I love Tesla. I love that the fact that they've been able to create a vehicle that is somewhat affordable for a basic person and all the technology, and they are arguably pushing the industry that way. I would argue GM or Toyota, they're going to do a better job from a security standpoint and from a technology standpoint, because they're a hell of a lot bigger, and if they fuck up, well, there's a lot more potential fallout. Plus, they have a lot more money to play with, so it'll be interesting. Hopefully, in the next, I don't know, 20 years, maybe we'll all be driving level 4 cars, which will be, I'm okay with level 4. I can deal with level 4. Yeah. There are times when I would love to just watch a movie or sleep instead of drive, but
True.
Yeah,
I can do that.
I don't know that I would ever trust that system that much. I don't know.
You would start to get used to it, and you would start to get a little lackadaisical. And I think that's one of the things. Even these ones that say you need you to still overwatch. That's the problem. People
if the vehicle is able,
going so good, I'm getting bored, and all of a sudden,
if the vehicle is able to alert the driver correctly, because I would argue, like, if you're being lackadaisical, and all of a sudden your vehicle is like, get in the fucking wheel right now, and you're going 70 miles an hour, I would argue survival instinct will still take over, and you will do that. You will get involved.
But you already have to be in the mindset. Again, how many meters can you travel at 70 miles an hour?
But that's partly why level 4 is the vehicle itself is the backup.
Yeah.
So it even though it might be like, I have no fucking clue what's going on in this situation, it's still going to be able to be like, hey, let me get to a safe spot. That's the difference between 4 and 3. So I don't know. Who knows? But before we go too far, I probably should let go ahead.
Okay. So so my 2017 Chevy Volt has adaptive cruise control, has the automatic braking. It has lane keep assist, but it's not lane centering. So what it does is it will bounce off
it'll pong
the lane. Yeah, it plays pong with itself. And it does the same thing where, like, you hands off and it will keep you in the lane.
Yeah, it'll keep driving, but it'll be like, okay, 20 seconds later, like, get on the fucking wheel. Don't be lazy. You're supposed to be driving.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's a couple of very straight stretches between Crested Butte and here, and it's always interesting to, like, get it just lined up right, take the hands off, and be like, one of these days I'll be able to do this. So there's a aftermarket company, I think it's called Open Road AI. I need to look it up again, but that offers a level 2 kit for my car, and I can there's a module in the trunk that I would need to unplug, plug in some jumpers, and then plug in their module. And then there's a device you hang up in the window that almost looks like a phone. And it's got cameras that kind of add in to the existing single camera that my car has. But it adds that in, and then an infrared system. And then we'll pipe all that data back to that module, and it will keep you centered. And it will actually allow you to take your hands off the wheel at highway speeds.
That's cool.
And that's
modding community. There's gonna be a car modding community at that point. So.
Oh yeah, but I'm being good. I still have factory warranty on my car, and I know the second I plug this module in, Chevy would be like, "Nope, I don't care that your battery's leaking and it has nothing to do with this module that you installed. You still get to pay the $7,000 for the new battery."
Nope, not worth it yet.
Nope.
But
let's talk about.
It's kind of related to cars. What the hell is this fuel shit going on here?
I've been royally confused at Thai gas pumps, and I'm not going to blame Thailand because this may be the same way it is in Europe. In North America, basically you go to your gas pump and you got 3 fuels. You got your regular, you got your plus, and your premium.
And those might be different depending on where you are, because in Colorado, The low grade is 85.
85 octane.
Right, but it's
And
still
they don't have
You
that
shouldn't run
in
that
Alaska
in modern vehicles.
anywhere.
Well, this gets more confusing because you can go to different companies and different pumps, and some of them you're going to see more than 3 fuels. You see maybe 5 fuels, and it's royally confusing. One of the reasons I got into this is my manual for my motorcycle says minimum octane of 91 and unleaded. Now that seems so simple because I go to the pump, and one of the pumps I go to, and this is what I'll see. I'll see E20, E85, then I'll see 91 and 95.
Yeah, so I'd always
Now-
go for 91 or 95.
So, and the other thing for the bike is it says no more than 20% ethanol. Okay, so you see E20, E85, 91, and 95. Now, not getting into what you'll see in some other ones, you will see different fuels, different names, V Power or whatever for Shell. So, what do you think the octane level is for? I mean, the not the octane level, but the gasohol, the ethanol percentages for E20.
20%
I
ethanol.
said 20, yeah.
20%
What do you
ethanol, I don't know how much octane, so I'm guessing 80%?
No.
Yeah, I'm not... No, okay,
Octane's
it'd
a
be
different
less
So
than-
Yeah.
when you start adding ethanol to it, it starts, because ethanol is actually a higher octane rating than gasoline, it will actually bump up the octane rating, which, yeah, but
So-
ethanol also burns faster, so you get less distance per gallon. For a little bit, I experimented with, I had a 2001 Chevy Blazer that I was trying to do 50-50 ethanol mix, because at that point ethanol was like $2.60 a gallon, whereas gasoline was like $5 something. And so I was like trying to min max, and I realized that because I was having to go fill up more because the ethanol was burning quicker.
Okay. So now, continuing on that question, what do you think the E85 amount is?
85%
Of
ethanol.
Ah, well, okay, you got that right. So then if you go to the pump and you see 95, and you can't read, and just sometimes you go here and you'll see 95. You got to look for the small print. Hopefully you'll find it in English, or you're going to have to learn the Thai word, because it might be 95, which is...
Is that octane or is it
which is-
ethanol?
That is a RON level of octane, or that's what they call RON. That'd be 95 RON, and that'd be 100% gasoline, or it could be 95 E10, 95 E20, or 95 E85. Okay, so you got to know for sure. Are we talking gasohol 95, gasohol 91?
And is gasohol the same as gasoline? Because this is the first country I've ever
Gaso-
lived in
it's
where
the
it's like
mix.
gasohol.
It's
the mix.
and I'm-
Ethanol
Yeah,
and
gaso-
gas.
Ethanol.
Yeah, gasohol 91 is 90% benzene, as they call it, and 10% ethanol. And then it gets more confusing because here they use RON, they don't use octane. And in Europe, they use RON. Now, RON is research octane number, and it to get octane versus RON. If you want to get the octane, you have to take the research octane number, and you have to divide it by what's called the motor octane. Plus the motor octane number, and then divide it by 2, and that will give you the octane number, which we use in North America.
Wow.
So
What a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So you'd have to pretty well do the conversion here. But for myself, for an octane of 91, I can use just about any of them except for the E85.
Right.
So and here, I've decided that I'll get more fuel efficiency if I don't use the E20, which is 20% ethanol, and if I go to the gasohol 95, which is really called E10, because it only has like 10% ethanol, and it's only at 1 baht more per liter.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about maybe putting 10, can't remember how many liters my tank is. Maybe it's 10 liters. So I mean, what the heck? Might as well use the better fuel.
Yeah.
But,
it's
it's very confusing when you go to a pump and you see all these signs. Like what are you actually getting? And I used to think, oh, E85 is that must be okay to use. No, that'd be very, very bad for my engine.
Yeah, you don't want to put that in a small engine.
86 or 85% ethanol. My God.
See, and there's a little bit of that here in the United States too. With so like my Goldwing,
fuel, right?
my motorcycle. Yeah, I mean you can find
was...
E85, which is flex fuel.
Well, my old truck was flex fuel. I've never knew what to put in it, so I always put 90, 95 or 93 octane in it because I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah,
some in the U.S. I'm sure some of your 95s probably had ethanol in them too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you actually have to search pretty hard to find ethanol-free gasoline in the States right now. You go to like any of your major carriers, and their 91 is usually cut with about 10% ethanol, and 10%'s okay. But there's even some places now that are cutting it with 20%. Because 20% is the maximum you can put into a vehicle that is not hardened against ethanol.
Right.
Without
That's flex fuel.
Exactly. So flex fuel means that vehicle can run on any ethanol blend up to E85.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if it's not, so it has to be a computer-controlled engine first and foremost, because it burns differently. So it actually has to adjust electronically.
Change, right?
Yep, your timing and your air-fuel mixture all has to change when you're running ethanol. And that's how I found out that my Blazer, even though it wasn't flex fuel rated, all of the line and tubing was compatible with up to 50% ethanol because it was 2001. And I did have to do a little bit of custom programming to it to actually get the air fuel mixture to go to skew enough air into the mixture to actually make it burn completely. So that was kind of interesting. But like I have a problem now with my 1980 Honda Goldwing. If I leave ethanol in it, the carburetors, like the gaskets in the carburetors, are not ethanol hardened.
Deteriorate, don't they?
Yeah.
The fuel lines are not hardened, and so it would, so especially when I put it up for the winter, I make sure to run through whatever gas is in it, and then only put ethanol free in it with a the Lucas Stable, and in the summer I will only fill up, like, if I'm around town, there's 2 places in town I can get ethanol free. So I'll get ethanol free at those places. And if I'm out actually doing a long trip, then I'm more okay with putting, something that has 10 or even 20% ethanol in it.
Burn
Super quick.
Exactly. But it's one of those things that now, because I learned about all this with my Blazer, because I was trying to save money, that's now stuff that I think about going, okay, well, any vehicle manufactured after I can't remember if it's 90 or 95, is able to burn E20. And then higher than that is an issue until you get into your flex fuel vehicles.
And I think...
So I've determined for my bike, because this is 91 octane, I had to go somewhere to get the conversion. I don't have it with me, which is I think so. E20 is a 95 run, so I can run an E20. I could run a gasohol 91 and gasohol 95, a benzene 91, a benzene 95. But stay away from the E85.
And to make things more confusing is I think in Thailand, at least when I was talking to Warren, I think his car uses half propane or something crazy to drive.
Well, he had a propane conversion added to it.
Which is something I'd never heard of in the U.S.
Most of the taxis have it too.
Not our ambulances when I worked out in California, but our newer transport vans for your normal like wheelchair and just gurney transports actually had propane tanks in them, and you could run fully off of propane for like 100 miles or something.
Makes sense for an emergency vehicle in the event of a catastrophe or something. That might be only thing you have is propane.
Yeah. Well,
electricity goes down. You couldn't really get gasoline very well.
Well, what the theory was behind that is those burn so much gas when idling to keep your air conditioning running and stuff like that, and they're just blowing out all of these emissions. Whereas if you flip to propane, it's safe. It's human safe emissions at that levels. So when you're under the awning transferring a patient in and out,
you don't gas
flip
yourself.
to propane, you don't gas yourself, you're not gassing the patient out, and you can still run the air conditioning and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
all of
obviously it's the same engine. So the same engine, just it's a computer control thing to burn propane versus gasoline or gasohol.
I think that's true with like fuels. If you have the technology, the computer technology, it's all about timing. And if the as Brandon said, if the actual lines and gaskets are able to withstand the corrosive aspects of all this type of fuel, like you have what's that fucking tank in the U.S. military? The big one, the Abrams. You can run it on literally all fuel because it's got such an advanced.
That's where people were using fryer grease.
Yeah, because it's got such an advanced computer system. It just is able to change the timing, so at least it runs. Because that's all an engine is fucking timing, getting the most power and efficiency per each cycle.
So back to the future.
You can run biodiesel in Volkswagen diesel engines too.
Mm-hmm.
So Back to the Future 3 was not lying to us when he was going to try and use liquor to run the DeLorean, the time machine.
So there's a really great Mythbusters episode out there where they actually they do the moonshining cars, and they actually run the cars off of the moonshine.
So another interesting thing is I understand here in Asia they make their ethanol from palm sugar trees, just like they make the palm sugar here. Whereas in North America they make it from corn, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, ours is corn.
Yeah. So they don't make it from corn here; they make it from sugar palms.
Yeah, because all it is sugar alcohol.
Mm-hmm. And that's my topic.
Fuels, baby.
That's awesome.
Wow. I love gas.
So I don't know if any of you have looked at YouTube today. The first Steam Deck reviews are finally in.
Yes.
Oh, I gotta take a look at my email to see if
it's not available to purchase yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
not till the end of February, but it's this month.
Okay. Oh,
you'll get expect that email this month. Sorry, Brandon. Go ahead. Go.
That's fine.
Okay.
So first reviews are in with some caveats, and for the most part, they're very positive. These initial reviews cover the hardware and performance on 7 games chosen by Steam. Those games are Control, Devil May Cry 5, Forza Horizon 5, Ghost Runner, Street Fighter 5 CE, Portal 2, and Dead Cells. Linus Tech Tips did an amazing video covering everything, and I highly recommend watching it when you get the chance. LTT. We're not affiliated, but I'm a huge fanboy.
Hi, Linus.
Linus!
Linus.
Linus Senpai! Notice me! Yeah, so in their testing, the Steam Deck completely blew out the competitor devices by decent margins on quite a few games, with the minimum frames beating or equaling the average frames of both the ANEO Pro, which is the one I was kind of looking at, and the One X Player Mini. Things did kind of fall apart with Dead Cells, so it looked like it was limiting the game at 150 frames. LTT's best theory on that is that Steam doesn't let the game run up past 150 frames as a battery saving feature, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the display itself can't render that many frames, so why?
And if you're
Render
competitive
them.
gaming, you probably shouldn't be doing it on a Steam Deck if you're trying to
just to make
e-sport
sure that
something.
Tim isn't lost, you know what we're talking about, right? The Steam Deck?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if you knew or not, but good.
Yeah.
Not to be
Portable
confused
player.
with the Stream
It's the Stream Deck.
Yeah.
Fucking Valve, man. I love it.
And then Forza Horizon 5 is a much worse gameplay experience, and it doesn't line up with the benchmark. The benchmark says it gets 60 frames.
Frame timings are weird.
Yeah, that was kind of what they said, is it felt like the physics was kind of rubber banding, and like even though the frames were still consistent, it's like all of the processing to get the actions to line up wasn't quite timed right. But it's a Windows game, so it's loading through the Steam Proton layer. So I think some software tweaks could get that running even better. Battery life was also impressive, with 3 hours and 21 minutes in Ghost Runner running at medium settings, no blur, and capped at 30 FPS. And that was 40 minutes longer than the One X Player Mini.
Yeah,
and
with,
nearly
with the
2
hardware,
hours.
Yeah, with the hardware that's in it, that is actually fucking incredible, honestly.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Three
I'm,
hours. and
I'm
40
blown
minutes
away by that, actually.
of actual
Yeah.
gameplay time. That's
That was them sitting in the game with the camera running.
Like
So-
it was real time game. Like it was rendering the frames,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like
You're
fighting.
not
or-
moving through it. It's not loading in additional assets.
but it's still, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
still, that's still impressive. That's fucking impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was 2 hours longer than the ANEO Pro. They rated the control surface very highly, with the only downsides of like their entire review being the haptic feedback, which was weak and cheap feeling. Supposedly Steam is going to fix that with software, but that's we'll see what happens there. The other thing that LTT did was they tested the load times of the SSD versus microcard, and it's very similar. It's very close,
That
which
blew
is
my mind
huge.
even more. Like,
Oh, yeah.
all of a sudden that lower tier makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I know personally, I can't wait to see more videos to see what kind of stuff this can do. I really want to know what performance is on the Steam OS versus Windows OS,
Yeah.
because personally I would really want to run Windows on it so that I could plug it into a dock and throw it up on screens if I wanted to, or could run little stuff on it, just like I've already got this out, I'm playing this game, but this server needs to be restarted that I'm playing on, so let me pause real quick and exit out of the server and do a RDP session, and there we go, now I've restarted the server
All
and I can
while on
hop
the
back in the
toilet.
game. Sure, why not? Or
be able
sitting
to
there
run
at the
Discord
barber
or
shop
something
waiting
else
to
on it.
get a haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the other part. Now, I guess Steam does have its own full-featured Discord-like stuff that, honestly, we should probably check out and maybe try on the podcast one time using that, because I always forget that they have their own version of it.
I actually, that's a review I'm going to be doing for the Tech Pirate, because Epic
Ooh.
Games also has voice services as well. So I'm kind of want to do like a three-way
Three-way
battle, just to see.
Battle Royale.
Exactly.
Yeah, we could do. Okay, we'll talk more about this maybe in the after show.
Yeah.
Anyway, go forth, Canis.
Yeah, basically, I want to see more of the device, and honestly, I originally had kind of written off the handheld gaming device because I don't use my Switch that much. I bought the Switch. I was super excited about it, and then it just
there's no Wi-Fi available because of the stupid.
That's part of it.
Yeah, that was my insta stop with buying the Switch. Is like if I'm on a 10-hour flight, I won't be able to use it.
Not a mobile device if you have to be fucking tethered to something. That's the fucking definitor.
Well,
Fine.
and I mean that specific issue can be resolved if you only ever use the physical cards. So every game I have bought in the last 6 months, which totals 2, for my Switch, I have gotten the physical chip of it because it's like, you know what? This probably isn't a game that Luke and I are going to play simultaneously and try and play together. So like Everspace, that's a single player game. It's like, okay, great. I will buy Everspace. I will buy the physical version of it. And that can be something fun that maybe I later come back to a year from now or 2 years from now or 20 years from now as I'm digging this out going, oh my God, I remember the Nintendo Switch. Look at this here. And you don't have to rely on Nintendo keeping their servers up. Because that's the other thing I kind of realized is it's like, if you buy the cartridge, it doesn't matter if their servers eventually go away. Because you have the card.
Yeah.
You won't have all the latest
part of
updates
Steam.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I got to thinking about it, because it's like I've got a case of all of my Game Boy games. Like, let's see what kind of cool, crazy stuff I have. Quicks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like I Paperboy and Rainbow Six, Monster Rancher, Pokemon, Top Gun. Like, I can grab my 30-year-old Nintendo Game Boy and pop these in and play them. Just need some double A's.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the thing that's starting to worry me about, like, the Switch and just portable gaming in general. It's like,
and really just all games, just the gaming industry. They're all switching
renting
to
the game. You're
leasing the
not buying
game while it's popular, and then eventually they're going to shut it down, and
Now,
you're like, well, that was a waste.
Yeah,
waste
I
of
don't.
money.
I don't think Valve has done an exceptional job at not doing that. I have to give them
So
credit
far.
on that. It's so far, but even games that are dead, like. Let me, while we're looking, let me make sure of this.
Starforge.
Yeah, that's
you can
exactly
currently, you can download Starforge if you owned the game.
Yep.
You can
You can't
still
buy it anymore.
download
You
the
can-
broken.
Yep, and the
broken mess that is
Starforge right now. I've just confirmed that. So, I guess pick your evil. Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Concept of
And I mean,
convenience
that's-
and there's a lot of things going on. but,
before we get into too big of a larger conversation about this, due to some time constraints, because this would be a pretty good discussion episode. Let's kind of rope it back to the Steam Deck itself.
Yeah. So, the Steam Deck, I originally was not going to buy because I don't use my Switch. I bought that Surface Go thinking, hey, I could totally play some light games on here and do streaming. And I bought a expandable controller that actually fits it, and I just don't use it because the controller's crap and the performance on the go is crap, and that device has also kind of started sitting on the shelf, and Colton, you and I need to talk about that. And I'm just like, I don't really know anymore. Maybe I should just invest in a decent laptop, which I am going to get the framework in a couple months. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I'll deal with a laptop. I always carry a laptop.
Unless you're finishing the statement, let me interject. Okay.
Okay. No, go for it. Interject.
I originally kind of thought the same thing. But then I went full bore and I reserved the ultimate version of it. And it depends on how much you plan on being on an airplane. I've got a wonderful gaming laptop that I do everything on that works for everything. It's amazing. It's been one of the best technology purchases I've ever purchased. However, the amount of power that it uses while it's on battery, it lasts about 30 minutes on a AAA title, going full bore. And if I try to plug it into airplane power, it just goes, no, we're not going to even charge you. I can kind of get around it because it will power via USB-C also, but it will not run the dedicated onboard card if it is powered in that manner. So if you are really serious about gaming, I foresee the Valve, the Steam Deck as being something that will be able to do that. And it's portable enough where I can leave my laptop at home. I can, as Tim has nicely put on his bike, my ultimate goal here is to get a bike, maybe not that big, but something like that, and be able to explore Thailand, where I might feel more comfortable taking the Steam Deck with me and my old Surface Pro and going onward and not having to worry about the laptop. That and being able to use this on an airplane, being able to, for maybe you use it on road trips. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, so I also partake in the motorcycle arts. And so the laptop I want is the framework. So it's a 14-inch laptop, thin and light. That'll fit well. There's going to be some issues like performance-wise. It's compatible with an eGPU. So I'm probably going to pick one of those up and eventually slot probably this 2070 Super into that when I eventually upgrade this to, 4th gen or
something
5th
that's
gen
not
or whatever
available yet and prices become reasonable.
Yeah.
If you don't have buckles.
Yeah. But now after these reviews, I kind of got that itch of like, ooh, what kind of cool things could I do with having a Steam Deck? What kind of new ways, new interactions to use it could I have? What new games would I start playing because it's a different form factor? Mm-hmm. So you could start thinking about it very differently than like playing a game on your computer.
So like for going off that point, I have about 15 games in my Steam library that I've never really played because they don't feel right to play on a big desktop. But I actually have them sectioned off in their own section just for the Steam Deck because I know the experience in a mobile setting or just out in the world or on my bed or whatever is going to be a lot of the reviewers, not just Linus, they're all saying they're saying it's going to change gaming. And
Valheim, I think, will feel very different.
Valheim's going to be awesome.
Great.
Like
Starbound,
racing games
Terraria.
are going to be great. Yeah, Starbound, all those 2D side scroller games. That's almost it's like a new retro wave in some ways because it's going to be awesome. So
yeah.
Hopefully it is.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go for the super top end like Cody is, just because I don't know. I don't think I need that level of storage and then the etched screen. I think I'll probably go for the mid tier just because I don't. 64 gigs isn't enough storage space. I don't like the entry level model because the first thing I would do is crack that sucker open and throw in a different SSD.
Yeah, and that's the thing is for you, I would agree with that. For somebody who's not wanting to try and install Windows on this, I would say the base model is probably the way to go.
And with
well,
like
and
Steam
it also depends on
streaming
your
and
games.
stuff like that too. With Steam streaming, like
yeah,
it's
but then
a lot better than it used to be.
Then you're using,
True.
but if you're again, if I think for certain people it will work well, but if again you can't stream Steam unless airplanes now host.
Well, yes, but
Steam
not
on
everyone.
their internal servers.
It's all about, is it going to work for you? But it's
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why the idea about the SSD card being almost as fast or at least acceptable.
That's
a
cool.
big fucking. That's why that's a big fucking
That's
deal.
huge.
I
That's-
guess
Oh, yeah.
that makes
A terabyte,
you know,
a terabyte of space is more than enough for
What-
5 or
For
6
mobile
games.
gamings. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and what I foresee, people are going to we're going to go back to the realm of where cell phones got out of, where people are going to have to be way more conscious of the card that they are putting in this to make sure that it is a U3, that it is not, just a class 1 card or something like that. We're going to get back to that era. So be careful, consumers, when you get this. Not that this is a bad product, and if this doesn't operate the way you expect, make sure you're putting the right micro SD card in there.
Yep.
Go back
Well,
to our
just like-
old episode.
So
Just like if you use your Switch and actually use the SD storage on it, like that is very finicky on what storage it will accept. And that's why they have their own little branded, like, oh, look, this one's Mario, so it's, 512 gigs. Oh, this one's only Luigi, it's 256. Oh, look, this
Fucking
one's
Luigi.
a Goomba, it's 128. Like, yeah, you're
But
going to
it's
have
not
to
even
really
the
be
size,
careful
it's
of
it's
the
the
class
speed.
of storage. Yeah, well, they brand theirs, and they're all the... I think the lower capacity ones are U2 and then the higher capacity ones are U3, or maybe it's inverted, because they recommend a U2 at the minimum.
Yep.
But yeah, I know even my camera, if I just use a crap like, oh look, I found a random 32 gig PNY SD card in my junk drawer, and I go out and start like taking
GoPro's
burst
bad
shots.
that way.
Oh yeah, GoPro is
not
too.
about it.
but
I've got to take a break. Should
Well,
I wait till
we're-
you
We're
wrap
actually
up,
we're
or-
actually going
We're gonna wrap up.
right now.
Wrapping up right
Yep.
now.
So, I won't promise to buy one, but I will very much look into it when they become available. Maybe I'll pick one up secondhand. But anyway, Tim, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
On Facebook and YouTube, Our Thai Journey.
Cool.
And I'm going to have another video up in a couple of days. I'd like to say
Nice.
today, but easier
More
to say a couple of days.
more motorcycling?
Yeah, it's more of our trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Cody, where can we find you?
You can find me here every week. You can also find me on Instagram as Zito Valdare, XIITOVALDARE. There, I said it. I told you where it is. You can also find me on YouTube as Striving to Fail, as in striving to fail of putting out any videos. And you can find me online gaming on Steam as Psychonitrous. And then you can find me with people like Colton, also known as Seeker4761, and also known as Where and What and Where.
Oh, I thought you were just going to do my whole thing for me.
Yeah, I thought. Okay, that's good.
I was like, all right, sure. Hype man. Colton. Shit. My name is Colton Roper. I go by Seeker4761, as Cody said, and I do know my own name.
How many times we're gonna screw up on this podcast?
You got me all messed up. I stream on twitch.tv/Seeker4761 pretty consistently. And you can find me in most of the socials, and all the socials actually, as Seeker4761. And Brandon, what about you?
You can find me on thetechpirate.net, where I have done one article so far. I will be adding more articles there. And then on Twitch streaming, I'm still working on setting up my stream. But I should start streaming this week or next week. And that is Captain Dracanus, all spelled out. And you can also find me on YouTube as The Tech Pirate, where I am hoping to do my year in review of the Surface Go. Surface Go 2.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For your social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL if you'd like to contact us. Of course, you can send an email to twil@thetechpirate.net, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.